Hey, and welcome to another installment of Catching Up with Chris, Jake, and Sam. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
And hey, how's it going, guys? Well, I think we got a lot to talk about this week. Before we dive right in, any of you guys have any interesting things? Chris, I know you went to New York City for a bit.
Yeah, I randomly kind of was talking to a couple of my friends who still live up there, and was just like, you know what? I'm free these 3 days. Let me go run up and visit some of my friends. So I was there for this. Or I guess by the time this posts, a week ago, I was up there, and yeah, had a lot of fun. I did get to make a kiss joke while we were walking around strutting, if I may. While we were strutting around New York, we were chatting about how I'm back in the area, and I was like, so this is the groove that Ace Frehley was talking about.
Were you dressed to kill?
Were you music from the Elder?
I found it kind of hard to keeping the faith.
Were you
not even a Kiss reference?
Yeah. Did you prowl around the city like the creatures of the night?
I found that while I was there, I fit like a glove.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
There you go.
It's
yeah, well, that's cool.
It's off of Lick It Up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
can
make all the unmasked references you want, Chris.
Yeah.
I won't ever
No.
go into that gold mine. Here's the tap.
Do you do anything interesting, Jake?
Interesting, no. But I just started to start reading Spawn from the beginning.
Oh yeah, because issue 250 just came out.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's funny whenever I would try to explain to somebody at the shop about Spawn 250. I'm like, yeah, I read it, and I really loved it. Like, it wasn't just like, it'd be a pick of the week. Like, I really loved the book. And then I followed up with, I've never read Spawn in my life. Like, all of my Spawn knowledge comes from, and I was tweeting about this like a week or so ago, and I realized that Spawn has been in my life for a long time. Everything outside of reading the comic. My favorite Iced Earth album is the Dark Saga, which is a concept album about Spawn. And the cover is drawn by Greg Capullo, and I think Todd McFarlane might have inked it or something. But I know Greg Capullo was the main factor because he told me himself on Twitter. So
yeah.
Coming from the man. And then there's a video game, a GameCube game. I can't remember the full name, but it's a Spawn game that I played for a long time, and it's really awesome. I knew of the movie. I saw it once or twice. I didn't really like it. I thought he looked cool in the suit. And then I had some of the very first generation Spawn Todd McFarlane action figures, which were really cool.
Yeah, I kind of had the same problem that you did. I've loved Spawn. Actually, I really enjoyed the Michael J. White movie, and for better or for worse, like that was my introduction to Spawn, and I was like, yeah, Spawn's a really cool character.
I feel like it was a lot of people our age groups introduction to Spawn.
Yeah, and the cartoon show that was on HBO.
Oh yeah, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
The animated series is kick-ass, and I actually just purchased it on eBay a little while ago, and hopefully we're getting it soon. That is a fantastic adaptation of the comic book. It's very adult. It's not like when I say animation.
Well, it was on HBO.
It's not like Gargoyles.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Street
but like
Sharks.
it's like it's everything that a show is adult and keep away from kids for because it's Spawn.
Yeah.
But reading I started reading it from the beginning. And I gotta say, it's really interesting. It's not entirely what I thought at first. That's not a bad thing, but I think the thing I've appreciated the most from McFarlane himself is his page layouts. I think he's really innovative and creative with the way he will lay out pages and the way he'll let dialogue bleed into other things. Where Wanda, there's a really sweet moment, and yes, there are such things as sweet moments in Spawn books where. Wanda's saying goodnight to her child, and she's walking through the house, and she goes and puts down the child to sleep, and she goes, goodnight, goodnight, sweetheart. And it bleeds over to a panel of Spawn wrapped in like newspaper sleeping in the alleyway, and just little moments where they try to connect the family. And there's a lot of humor. I didn't expect as much humor early on, and not just from the Violator, but from just the fact that Spawn doesn't know how to use his powers. He's a black man, but he can only turn into a white man when he uses his powers. And he gets really frustrated by that, and he turns into like a preppy looking white guy, which is kind of funny. And then just to see early Todd McFarlane art's great. He's such a great talented artist.
Yeah, I mean, Spawn is really the book that created or helped Image Comics become a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
I mean, without the blockbuster success of Spawn, there's a good chance, no Walking Dead,
Yeah.
no Saga,
Yeah.
none of that stuff, because that's really the book that built Image.
No
Yeah.
Rob Liefeld.
Well,
He was doing his own thing way before that, but
with Image Comics,
That's right.
too. I think he had Youngblood,
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Youngbloods.
And
with all disease.
all disease. And the thing that's interesting, and another thing I respect a lot about Todd McFarlane is, he's a guy that Spawn is his, and that's something that, he, and I guess it rubs some people the wrong way, and, whether he, how he acts about things, or he seems very intense. But the fact that, hindsight's 20/20. Like Sam was saying, Spawn was a smash hit. It's like the best independent selling comic book ever. It's this huge thing, and it's still going. We're at issue 250. Like 20 some years later.
With no reboots.
Yeah. It just and basically, but you look back at what Todd McFarlane did is he took a job where he was getting a fat paycheck for drawing Spider-Man with Marvel.
Yes, but we're talking Marvel in the 90s,
Mhm.
where your superstars are you're selling your average book. If it isn't selling, 70,000
Which is
copies,
insane.
then you're not a successful book.
Yeah, and Todd McFarlane was slaying it, with Spider-Man especially, and he basically gave the finger to Marvel and DC, so to speak, and was like, I'm going to start my own thing. And hindsight's 20/20, but back then that was like insane to think about.
Yeah, to start because for historically, it's just been up until that point. Yeah, there was third-party publishers, but it really was just Marvel and DC, and Dark Horse had kind of gained prominence in the late 90s or late 80s, largely because they had gotten the Star Wars imprint. And that's honestly, I'm kind of when I was a kid, I always associated Spawn with Dark Horse because the idea of he feels. He doesn't feel. Sorry, Todd. He kind of has that vibe of a licensed character.
Yes.
But he's a completely independent character.
Yeah.
And it's because you had superstar artists like, Todd McFarlane
Mm-hmm.
drawing him, who knew the craft.
Yeah.
Who made Spider-Man, like Spider-Man #1, which we both have that
That's right.
issue.
Yeah.
That was like, that sold over 1 million copies.
Yeah.
Up until Todd McFarlane was drawing Spider-Man, the webs were just like nets. So they're just
lines.
Yeah, and he made them kind of have like a strand, he calls them like spaghetti webs, kind of quality to him.
Yeah.
He really made Venom. Like Venom, when he first showed up, was largely just kind of like a black suit Spider-Man
Mm-hmm.
with like a big shit-eating grin on his face. And he really gave him that animalistic quality that he's really associated with now.
He's great with like battle damaged and tattered and torn things and slime, and which is just, all this works so well for Spawn. And it's just really fun reading. It's crazy to think that Spawn is like 20 some years old, because I'm reading these early issues and they don't feel like they're 20 years old. And they get dark. And issue 5 is the infamous issue with Billy Kincaid, where it's the issue that he jokes where he fired his wife over because she didn't want to print the book because it was dealing with a child murderer, and basically Spawn extracts revenge like hard on this guy.
Well, that was the that issue is written specifically to kind of respond like, well, so the Joker goes out
Mm-hmm.
and he kills like 24 people.
Mm-hmm.
Batman stops him, but stops short of killing him because he's a licensed character.
Yeah.
He can't kill him except for Tim Burton's Batman.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he Joker gets out again, kills another 24 people. It's like, well, at a certain point, you gotta Todd McFarlane was always put off by that. He's
He has a quote in it. I think it's before or after that issue, like out of an interview or whatever. And he basically says exactly what you're saying. And he's like, that always irked the crap out of me. He's like, why would he let that happen? And Spawn is this creation of Todd McFarlane's where he gets to do that. He gets to finally answer. He finally gets to live out that idea of like, no, if there is a psycho nut job, and it feels very like Dark Knight Strikes Again or Dark Knight Returns, excuse me, where like when the Joker is rehabilitated after all those years, and he puts a smile on his face, and he goes out, and everyone's like, you're going to be fine because we helped you. The beginning of the book starts off with that, with this therapist telling Billy Kincaid he's shave that goatee, you're going to be fine. And all while he's telling this, the inside of his mind, this inner monologue is like, I can't wait to go out and do these heinous things again. And when Spawn finds him, it's like the last page is this visceral, violent page where you have, because I guess throughout the book, the Billy Kincaid says something along the lines of, you scream, we scream, we're all screaming for ice cream. Well, Spawn has his naked body strung up by chains with a popsicle shoved down his throat, dead, and stapled to his chest is a sign that says, boys screamed and girls screamed, but I made him scream, 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 scream. And you're just like, fuck yes. That's just, and yeah, like you were saying, I mean, Todd McFarlane gets to live out these scenarios now where he gets to, if there's a Joker-like guy, Spawn's going to kill him.
Yeah. Though now I don't know if you guys have been reading Batman, but maybe the Joker can't be killed.
Yeah. I just caught up with I guess what's on newsstands now. I just finished reading the in-game part 4. Was that issue 37, 38?
37 or 38.
Yeah.
If it's 38. If you haven't caught up, just tune out for like maybe 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah. But it was pretty intense. I'm really digging, and Scott Snyder's kind of been going with this way his whole run, but I'm digging this like pseudo surreal
horror vibe.
I'm not sure what's actually going on. Part of me is telling me that this is all just some like whacked out hallucination, that none of it's actually real. And another part of me is like, oh my God, I hope that they're turning Joker into some like fucking weirdo, like, Freddy Krueger from Wes Craven's New Nightmare kind of just demon. And maybe he is one of, just like Doc Savage and just can't die.
Yeah, it's like ancient evil that's always existed in Gotham that finally like finds its eternal playmate in the Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and honestly, so we kind of talked about in last week's episode how Marvel's kind of maybe not really going to reboot, but maybe change up their line and kind of do things with continuity and that sort of thing. It looks like DC is poised to do something kind of similar after Convergence, which is their big event in April and May, which is really just kind of I feel like just a bunch of one-shots celebrating the multiverse.
Well, also because it's like, hey, we're moving offices,
Yeah. So we need to come up with titles to kind of plug the gap in the publishing
Welcome
schedule.
to L.A.
Yeah, out in Burbank. I think they're having a creative summit this week.
Yeah.
But their first one in Burbank, so they're canceling like 24 titles or somewhere thereabouts.
A fair chunk.
And this is they're dropping the new 52 branding after May for their what they're calling Divergence. Get it? Convergence, Divergence, clever.
Just like that movie Divergent.
Yes, starring Shailene Woodley.
Mm-hmm. The exact same.
Exactly, yeah.
In fact, she's going to be in all the books.
Yeah, just like how in the first issue of all the new 52 number ones, Pandora showed up. It's all going to be Shailene Woodley.
Yep,
exactly.
Variant.
Yeah. But so yeah, they're apparently what their approach is after this. They're no longer beholden to the 52 titles a month, which is fine.
Yeah, that was a cute gimmick for the first couple months, but after a year they had canceled 52 books.
Yeah, and then honestly, why call it the new? I mean, it's been 4 years almost since. But anyway, so they're apparently they're going really continuity friendly and more. I think kind of in a wave to the Image Comics renaissance, because Image has been doing great lately with all their books, and a lot of big name creators are kind of I don't want to say jumping ship, because some of them still do quite a bit of work with the big two, but there's just that they embrace that level of freedom and higher financial gain by having their own own stuff over at Image, like Scott Snyder, who we mentioned is doing Witches to great success over at Image, and Jason Aaron, who's been writing Marvel Star Wars and what's that other book he writes?
Southern Bastards?
Well, Southern Bastards he writes for Image, yeah.
Yeah.
But the Jonathan Hickman's leaving I think he's leaving Marvel after Secret Wars so he can do the Dying and the Dead and East of West and Manhattan Projects, because he's just a fucking rock star with writing books. But I feel like that's DC's way to be like, hey, you want to play with our licensed characters, gain more, like, a higher profile? Like, go ahead. Have some fun. Like, here's our characters. Continuity. We're not going to be as big sticklers on continuity as we were when we first launched the new 52. Knock yourselves out.
Yeah, which oddly enough, I kind of ran into while I was reading, catching up with Batman Eternal the other day, because like I'm so far the entire run, you've had, quote unquote normal Batgirl.
Kind of like New 52 launch Batgirl.
Yeah, exactly. And then out of nowhere, issue like 36, 37, just new young Barbara Gordon Batgirl.
Divergence Batgirl,
yeah, just like pops in, and I was just like, well, I mean, I knew this had happened. I'm not reading Batgirl, so I don't really like know how it was, played out in Batgirl. But like, what?
Yeah, just a sudden costume change. Nobody kind of like
and she looks like 5, almost 10 years younger.
Yeah, they had drawn her to be like in her mid to late 20s when Gail Simone was writing it. Now suddenly she's like in her early 20s. I feel like
I was thinking 16, but that's probably just me being shocked by how young she looks in comparison to what she was like 3 issues ago.
But to that point, I feel like Batgirl was really the book that started it.
Mm-hmm.
That was really, after Gail Simone finished her run, they gave it to Cameron Stewart, and he really took it in a different direction, and really in his own kind of vision. Like previous stories be damned, I mean, clearly it still takes place in the main DC universe, but they're not as. I feel like Gotham by Midnight's another one of those books. You could make the argument for Jeff Johns' Superman. Here's the real big shame: he's not writing Superman after Convergence.
I know, he's got 1 issue left, and that's it.
And he's
issue
done.
39. I mean, I'm glad that John Romita Jr. is staying on, but I was shocked. I mean, for some reason, I just figured that John Romita Jr. would leave first, because I don't know, Jeff Johns loves Superman, and I thought he would stick around, but really the one arc and that's it. And it's been a fantastic arc. I mean, it's been great. I mean, gave him a new superpower and a new suit, but it's a real bummer that he's leaving. Like, and a lot of times I don't get super bummed when a creator leaves because I'm like, all right, it's fine, whatever. But I just love the way Jeff Johns writes Superman so much that it's.
He kind of gave him a more kind of that classic Boy Scout approach that I had kind of missed since the start of the New 52.
I mean, and there are plenty of stories and issues I've liked from the New 52 Superman, but I never loved them really until Jeff Johns was writing them.
Yeah,
and it was very easy to turn people on to Jeff Johns' Superman. Or New 52 Superman when Jeff Johns was writing it, because it's a Superman people can really enjoy. And again, I think you're right, because he took Superman out of everything, all the other shit that was going on in DC. And I say shit as in like, just shit, not like, it's
as
shit.
in stuff,
Yeah,
not
as in
like
stuff.
not
yeah,
like
not that it's terrible.
Yeah, not like fecal matter.
Yes, thank you. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, they took away, the whole Wonder Woman, him and Wonder Woman dating. They just kind of made it about a Superman story. You didn't have to read everything else that was going on.
Yeah. That's kind of how I felt when he left Green Lantern. Like I was really loving his run on Green Lantern, and then around like issue 25 or whatever,
somewhere around there.
Yeah, he left the book, and like it was pretty emotional. Like I've never really cared about creators coming and going, just like you said. In fact, until recently, I almost couldn't care less who was writing or drawing, just because it wasn't something that I was focusing on. And then I started actually noticing, when I liked a story, when I didn't, and the art and stuff. And Jeff Johns was always one of those, great writers. And his run on Green Lantern in the New 52 was so good. Good.
Even just before, because I'm a big fan of writers that are in it for the long game.
Oh, yeah.
Because then they can there's a bigger payoff. Yeah. You can tell those long-form stories. So Jeff Johns had been writing Green Lantern in some form since 2004.
That's true. Yeah.
So it was like a good, I want to say 2013 is when he stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thereabouts.
Almost 10 years.
Yeah, almost a decade. You had Brian Bendis writing the Avengers in some form from 2003 to 2012. You had Matt Fraction writing Iron Man from 2008 to 2012, and Ed Brubaker writing Captain America in some form. I say some form all the time because they would always sometimes they would rebrand the title.
Yeah.
Like Grant Morrison's Batman would go through, it would be Batman, then Batman and Robin, then Batman Incorporated. Like Grant Morrison had written Batman since 2006. And then he stopped in 2013. So, yeah, when those writers are on there for a long time, there's a level of payoff, emotional payoff and investment that you get that you don't necessarily get from say Warren Ellis. Love Warren Ellis, but he only wrote 6 issues of Moon Knight.
Yeah.
There's no long
And also
there
was as much as there was a connecting story, they all kind of felt and I liked that this was a selling point. I liked it, is that they all felt like one issues. Like you could just read one issue and have kind of a story completed, not completed, but you can feel like
Yeah.
you had a story, like
One
a
and
one
done.
shot. That's why I was like, it's a bummer because when I read Spawn 250, I was like, man, imagine like what the fuck is this book like for someone who's been there from the get go. And I've had a couple people come in and they're like, dude, I've just been collecting them. I haven't read a Spawn issue since 50, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, so you don't even know, like, you haven't been around, like, because I had a very basic knowledge of, like,
what's the point?
Exactly, and so I had known that the current Spawn was Jim Downing, it wasn't Al Simmons, and that this was the return of Al Simmons, and so the whole issue, because it's like a double issue, is about the return of Al Simmons, and there've been plenty of comics that I've read where it's the return of a character, and like when you read it, it doesn't feel like a payoff. It's a fucking beast of a payoff. And I remember it was so much so
when Hal Jordan returns in Green Lantern Rebirth?
Oh yeah. Like it's an event. Like the city of New York in this issue shakes when Al Simmons comes back. And there's a great moment where it's like, I think that one of the lines is like, "Hail to the King," because like he finally comes back. And like I remember I was reading it, and this is not how you work at a comic shop, but I almost like somebody came up to me and I almost wanted to be like, "Fuck off for a second, I'm almost done." Because I was reading it, and like the again with the page layouts, because Todd McFarlane doesn't draw it, he just writes it. This issue, it's like these little just like this like ticking down moment of the return, because the world's about to end with all these bugs and all this stuff, and you turn the page and there's just this necroplasm green light, and it's all everyone remembers the moment they saw the light, and you see this like light shining out like from heaven to hell, and you just see like you can kind of see a silhouette in the necroplasm light, and there's a moment where you see each panel, his boot hits the ground, and then like you hear like the chains going shackling, and then another boot hit the ground, and then all the evil shit in the world dies, and he's just there, and he's just like, fuck yeah, and he's kind of rebranded again a bit, but it's just like there's the entire book, it's just all about everyone's like, we're all gonna die, holy shit, this is it, we're all gonna die, and then you get the moment when Spawn comes back, and it's like I could just imagine for Todd McFarlane to write this, and like you were saying, in the long haul, like for the fans out there who've been reading it since the get-go, like what it must have felt like to get Al Simmons back, because he had been gone, I think, since I think they said 185 is the issue where he dies, and it was really cool, and so I can only imagine, like I said, this was the first actual front cover to cover Spawn issue I ever read. I was blown away at 250, the return of a character. I can't imagine what it would have been like for someone who's been there since like 92 when Spawn came out. So
yeah, something like that. Wow.
I had no idea Al Simmons actually had died off.
Oh yeah, because what I get from the issue is that he found a spot. He lives in like that homeless area with other guys. He's known as the King, I guess. And again, my Spawn knowledge is limited, so I apologize if I'm getting this all wrong. That he found a spot where God and good and evil cannot really hone in on this spot, or an evil especially. And he realizes that if I kill myself and blow my head off at a certain with my back to the wall, my body will fall into this almost negative zone, and I can't be tarnished. And so one of the characters, Jim Downing, figures that out and fucks around with one of the symbiote Spawn suit, and shit goes real. And then when it's just the way it's drawn, and his like announcement back into the world to like kick ass was just so fucking cool.
That's a bit of a plug. If you guys are interested in Spawn, Image just added all 250 issues to Comixology.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first time they're all available digitally. So
even issue 10,
the issue which Todd McFarlane promised Bill Sim,
Dave Sim,
that he would never reprint. And I guess he technically didn't reprint it.
Yeah, it's funny because I have a compendium here that Chris is letting me borrow graciously. It's in here, yeah. But again, it's
oddly enough, I have a compendium of the first 50 issues, and I've never read them.
maybe because it's not in color. I don't know, but there's been plenty of books where it's issue 1 to 9, and then 11 to whatever it's collecting. But yeah, so if you've been waiting. Issue 10, like that's a great issue about the pitfalls of creators selling their characters. So.
And if you've never read Spawn, issue 1,
yes, yeah. If you've never read them, like I have,
if you've never read them, all 250.
Well, I realized that day I read 250. I also read number 1, so I read Spawn 250 and number 1 in the same day, and it was just like the weirdest like sandwich.
Well, it's kind of like how I first watched Breaking Bad.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Because I watched the first season. And I guess for whatever reason, I was in college when Breaking Bad was mostly on the air. And I watched the first season. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. And then I never watched seasons 2 through 5. And then I saw the season or series finale live. So it was really interesting to watch season 1, Walt and
To
Jesse.
see how like vile Walter had become, and like, hey, where the hell are some of these characters?
Yeah, well, it's
'Cause
like,
they're
why?
dead.
Yeah. Well, somehow Walt is able to like put a machine gun in the trunk of his car. What
Where's
the
Hank?
Yeah.
Oh
where's
God. Yeah, where's Hank?
Moment of silence for Hank,
Fuck.
but not really. Let's keep going. He's a fucking fictional character. If you really want to see Dean Norris, he's sexy Ben Franklin,
Yeah,
Sons
Sexy
of
Ben.
Liberty.
He's the SWAT team captain in Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Yeah.
He's blown to smithereens in Lethal Weapon 2.
Yeah, during the poker game.
While we're talking comics, one of the things I had mentioned John Hickman earlier, he had a really long run on Fantastic Four, and this has been a big kind of news week for Fantastic Four. They just released the first official trailer, or teaser trailer really, of the Fantastic Four movie coming out in July. Did you guys see it? What did you guys think of it?
Yeah, we had all, everyone listening to this and all of us know like all the hoopla surrounding the movie. So we don't need to harp on that too much. But I was shocked when the trailer I woke up that morning, I saw that it was released, because I in an era now where everything has countdown to the teaser of the teaser and the release date of the trailer, I didn't see anything about that with Fantastic Four. And so it was cool. I remember I was like, oh shit, well now we get to see what's, everything else has been hearsay up to that point. And I never read Fantastic Four because I didn't give a shit about Fantastic Four. When I saw the trailer, the best thing I can say is I'm more excited now than when I was before seeing the trailer. There's some shots that I really loved. I've watched it a couple times. And the best compliment I can pay it is it made me want to go out and read Fantastic Four. I speaking of Jonathan Hickman, I picked up the first couple volumes and blew through them, and just absolutely adored the book. Taste changed over the years because, it's probably like 2 or 3 podcasts ago, and I'm like, who the fuck cares about Fantastic Four? I'll never read them. They're stupid. And then I read the first issue, and I'm like, Jake, shut the fuck up, you idiot. Because it's great. It's fantastic. Yes, I always say fantastic. I didn't mean to do that. I meant honestly. Like, it's really good. I like it a lot.
That's a me joke.
Yeah. So it's good.
Hickman, talking about creators that had long runs on a character.
Mm-hmm.
Hickman wrote Fantastic Four in some form for a while. So, and he's honestly God, he's one of the best Fantastic Four writers out there.
Yeah. Another great thing about working at a comic shop is there's this older man who always has great ties on, like Spider-Man ties or Fantastic Four ties, and I know that he loves Fantastic Four. And so he was coming to check out, and I told him, I was like, hey, you love Fantastic Four, right? And I would say he's like mid-60s, and his face lit up. Like, you want to fucking talk about Fantastic Four? Like, he's always Spider-Man with you fuckers. Yeah. Because he always has Spider-Man ties on.
I'm waiting for somebody to talk to me about the Defenders. Nobody wants to talk about the Defenders.
And his face actually lit up. He's like, oh, I love the Fantastic Four. I love the Fantastic Four. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm thinking about starting the Fantastic Four, and I've always passed by the Jonathan Hickman stuff, and I've always heard that. And he goes, "Oh man, it's so good. I love the Jonathan Hickman run." And I was like, "I'm really this is fucking hilarious." And I go, "Well, I'm really excited to read John Byrne too because I love John Byrne." He goes, "Yeah, I don't care. I don't like John Byrne's run at all. I
actually really like John."
He was like, "I didn't like it and missed the point." And I was like, "Okay, well, all right." And he's like, "And Walt Simonson's run is fantastic. Read that as well. And
Mark Waid had a good run.
Yeah, and so I was like, okay, cool. And he's like, yeah, I want to check up. I want to ask you. I'm going to check up. And then the cool thing before he left, he's like, one of the first issue I ever bought off the rack was the first Fantastic Four book.
Wow.
He's like, I own every single issue of Fantastic Four
Basically
ever.
the book that created Marvel Comics.
Yeah, and so this is a guy that is suffering because of Marvel trying to, Terminator 2, Fantastic Four before it ever gets, released. Because I've heard
Terminator 2,
go back in time and
basically, I got it.
Take away. Sorry, that was like a stretch. Take away Fantastic Four, the comic, because the movie's coming out, and get rid of the characters for now or cancel them, whatever. And he's a guy he's the James Robinson run right now. He said it's great. It's a really good run. He goes, it's just a shame that people aren't reading it. That's part of it, I guess. But I think another large part is, although Marvel probably wouldn't say, is
here's the thing: Bendis is done writing the Uncanny X-Men with issue 600 during Secret Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think he's going to write Fantastic Four after Secret Wars.
Yeah, I mean that'd be cool.
It's the only major property he hasn't really touched. If you think about it, and he's like, and it's not like he's going elsewhere because he just re-upped his exclusive contract with Marvel as well. He's and he's still writing Guardians as far as we know. He's done the Avengers. He's done X-Men. He's done fucking Moon Knight.
Yeah.
Who's left?
Union Jack. Where's the Union Jack Captain Britain team up? Here's the cover for that book. Okay, I want you guys to close your eyes because I think Sam and I have even joked about this. Close your eyes. The front cover for issue number 1 of Union Jack Captain Britain is going to be they're sitting outside of some kind of British restaurant bistro.
Yeah,
sitting there, and Captain Britain's going to have one leg crossed, with tea. And Union Jack is going to have just sitting with both legs on the ground because he's not an aristocrat type, Joey Chapman nowadays is not. And they're going to be discussing the merits of the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. And that's going to be the entire first issue. That's it. No fighting, no shit going on in the background. You might hear like an ambulance in the background. They're like, they got it. Don't worry about it. And they're just going to discuss the brilliance of the Beatles and the Rolling Stones for the first issue. There you go, Madness. Do that before Fantastic Four, please.
You're welcome.
Yes. I finally ordered. I'm like pulling up my fake lapels. Like, look at me, motherfuckers! I finally ordered the first hardcover of the birth of Captain Britain.
Oh yeah,
I'm excited for it.
It's good stuff. I've read all the Captain Britain and the MI-13, where one of his team members was a Skrull in the form of John Lennon.
Yeah. I mean, that's some British stuff. Just embrace the British.
Yeah. Now, Chris, what do you think of the trailer? Did you enjoy it, or just like it's a fucking teaser?
No, I thought it was a legit trailer. If we're gonna
trailer,
if we're gonna argue semantics, if we're gonna throw around the word teaser, I think it was a legit trailer. But I'm mostly indifferent to it because I've kind of like Jake from 3 podcasts ago, I don't really care. Yeah, I don't really care about the Fantastic Four.
Read Volume 1 of Hickman's. It'll change your life.
Never have, and don't plan on changing.
Anytime
soon.
I fucking said that. I said that like I swear during one of these podcasts. Listen to me now.
Sure. Yeah.
Listen to me now. I'm all about
the
the Fantastic.
Seen the light.
I've seen the light. I've seen the Council of Reeds.
Yeah. Oh, nice reference.
Yeah,
thank you. I will say the trailer does kind of remind me more of like Ultimate Fantastic Four, where instead of like going through space, they're going through like an alternate dimension and all that sort of thing, and it almost
it does seem pretty grounded on Earth.
Yeah,
the experiment
and the transformations seem more like Cronenbergian,
which I'm excited if they're gonna go do that route. Yes, more power to them.
Full Cronenberg, in my opinion.
Yeah, like Ben Grimm's like skin falls off and it's nothing but rock under it. And it's
man, if that was the transition, I'd be there. If it was. Putting all cards on the table. If Cronenberg were directing the movie, I would go see it.
It would be unreal.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, it'd be like vomit-inducing.
You know what? Hold on. I want to see a Cronenberg superhero movie. I don't... he could do a Swamp Thing, for sure.
Man-Thing, even.
Yeah. If we're going to stay with Marvel, let's go ahead and say Man-Thing. Any kind of thing. Thus
or the 6-arm saga, Spider-Man.
Yeah,
that would be that'd be freaking awesome. The Man Spider.
Yeah.
Werewolf by Night.
Yeah.
There
you go.
Yeah. Tomb of Dracula.
So we got Cronenberg, check. We got Bendis with Union Jack and Captain Britain, check.
Yeah.
Someone write that book, please.
Now, if you had to identify, who is your favorite member of the Fantastic Four? Just like at a glance or at first blush.
For me, I'd go with the Thing. I probably because I quote unquote identify with him, being a monster of a man myself, made of rock. But no, like being a big lug, and feeling very out of place in a normal sized person world.
Yeah.
Granted, he has a bit more challenge,
a bit more baggage.
A little bit.
Whole rock thing.
I always like it when he tries to blend in, where he's like basically
yeah.
got the trench coat with the collars up,
the Raphael
with the hat,
in the first Turtles movie style.
That seems to be a reoccurring thing in like Turtles, like that, and then just because I'm reading Spawn, like he does that in Spawn, where like he's clearly Spawn, but he has like the trench coat with the hat, and he's like Wanda, just like walking around like super bummed out. I would say Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards. I would have said that before I even read a book. I just think he was cool. I like the
That
leader.
and also, and that was your porn name.
Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah.
No, it was Reed Richards was my porn name.
Yeah.
And
mine was the Human Torch because I flared out quickly.
Flame on.
Before I even got to make the joke about Jake's pubes being gray.
Yeah.
Just on the one side, though.
Yeah. But my mom listens to this podcast.
It's all right. My dad listens to this podcast.
Oh, well, I'm just trying to
Mr. Fantastic.
Yes,
you were
thank
back
you.
to Mr.
I'm
Fantastic.
trying to clear my brain. Yeah, a lot of it had to do with the Council of Reeds in Hickman's run. I thought it was like a beautiful story, like the framing device of his father teaching him how to be a good man and him making good on that promise. Because I love that his the phrase that got like I'm so easily fascinated or can get easily caught up in wanting to read a character sometimes just by a phrase or a panel. And I was flipping through the book and there was a panel of Reed Richards, and he's in one of his rooms and he's almost calling out like, how do I solve everything? Like he's like, I have this brain, I should be able to solve everything. Why can't I?
The name of the first story arc.
Yeah, and it's so good, and I also love that he's like, my superpower isn't that I can stretch. It's my brain. That's something even long before ever getting hit with cosmic rays in space. It was
arguably the smartest person in the Marvel universe.
And so I've been, and I love the dynamic of the Fantastic Four. Reading the first couple volumes, but I've really come to just like Reed Richards as a character. I
feel like Hickman's favorite character in the entire Marvel Comics universe is Mr. Fantastic.
I mean. I wouldn't argue with that. I mean, especially just reading the Fantastic Four stuff. I mean, he writes them so well. And the thing about Hickman is he writes very smart. And I don't mean that in like, he writes it like, oh, all this really complicated smart stuff. He makes someone who, Reed Richards being one of, if not the smartest man in the Marvel universe, but you can relate to him, but you still get this vibe and this aura of this extremely intelligent man. And he just writes he writes all the characters so smart, and everything works and comes together, and he's a very unique writer. And I've been reading a lot of him lately, and I think by some of my earliest exposure would have been like the East of West stuff.
Which is really dense.
It is.
It's not, honestly, I love East of West, but it's not the most accessible book.
It's not. I mean, I have the first 8 issues, I think, and then I just went to trade because it's easier for me to read it in a trade because I would forget issue to issue.
That's what I do with like TV. Honestly, I don't watch a lot of broadcast TV anymore. I just wait for it all to be like available on stream.
You're gonna love life when Arrow when you catch it when you watch all the Flash, dude.
Yeah,
you're gonna love it.
It's gonna be like the greatest 2 weeks of my life.
Yeah,
and then it'll just be waiting.
Yeah, then you just wait for season 2. But who's your favorite member of Fantastic Four, Sam?
Probably Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's from just like in terms of like entertainment, it's probably The Thing.
Well, The Thing is hilarious.
Yeah, just this
the
big,
Rock Man.
The Thing is,
yeah, the Rock Man with like this like kind of Bronx accent. Just go, oh my blue-eyed Aunt Petunia. Oh man, Johnny, stop being an asshole.
Well, in
Ring ring, do your thing.
in the Simonson run, he comes back from watching Batman '89. And they're like, "Did you like it?" And he was like, "No." Who? He's like, he says something about like, a billionaire who's dating Kim Basinger in a house, wearing tights. Like, well, I don't get it. And then he's like, storms off in a huff. And Mr. Fantastic's kind of sitting there like, "Oh man, that's weird." And then I forgot who it is. Sue or somebody else was like, he loved it. Okay, he couldn't stop talking about how much he loved the movie. But it was so weird to see like a Batman '89 reference in a Marvel book.
But I mean, The Thing really is the most commercially I feel like in terms of this, he was so popular that he had his own basically Thing team up book in the late 70s. He had his own Hanna-Barbera spin-off, Fred and Barney Meet the Thing. And here's the thing about that spin-off or about that series. They never actually meet the fucking Thing. Like it was a Flintstones segment and a Thing segment with the guy with the Thing ring. He doesn't actually. They never
meet.
They never meet. For a show called Fred and Barney Meet the Thing, they never meet the fucking Thing. But he used to have his own solo book in the 80s. He used to have his own solo book in the early 2000s, written by Dan Slott. Bendis loved him so much that he put him as part of his New Avengers run. But yeah, so as in terms of entertainment, sure, the thing. But in terms of just like rich, complex character, Mr. Fantastic wins.
Would you say the kind of critics and negative reviews aside, that Michael Chiklis did a good job as the Thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, him and
I-
Chris
I-
Evans do fine.
I feel like those two got the highest praise. I feel like even the people who hated the movie gave Chickless like the highest praise possible for his performance as the
Yeah.
Thing.
They were
I mean,
not
he
the
looked
problem.
he looked like the Thing outside of the CGI. So
Just imagine like
Yeah.
Ben Grimm on the shield.
Yeah.
I do have to say that personally, kind of going back to my personal views on the Fantastic Four, I gotta say my favorite Fantastic Four storyline was probably the Hank Henshaw origin story.
Yeah.
where
It's basically
DC
Fantastic Four
Comics
gone wrong.
ripped off the origin story of the Fantastic Four, and then they all just die a horrible death. And then what?
Except
like
for
10
Hank Henshaw, yeah.
Yeah, and then like something like 10 years later, they resurrect the character to be Cyborg Superman.
In time for the World Without Superman, yeah.
Which, by the way, if anyone wants a super condensed and very well acted version of that, go watch Max Landis's Death of Superman.
Yeah.
Short.
The sleep and return of Superman.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's
Mr. Gold.
starring
Gold.
with Elijah Wood playing Hank Henshaw / Cyborg
I
Superman.
love Cyborg Superman. He's
He's
so
so
cool.
good. Yeah,
I loved it
I'm
when
back.
Jeff Johns.
I'm back.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
I loved it when Jeff Johns incorporated Cyborg Superman into his Green Lantern run.
Yeah, I remember I was like,
Yeah,
what the
that was
fuck?
great.
Like, he's just floating around.
Yeah, well, he had taken control of the Manhunters,
Mm-hmm.
like who are historically like these just sent evil robots that the Green Lantern Corps go against, and it's like, oh shit, they're now led by Hank Henshaw.
And at one point, he was a Red Lantern too, if I remember correctly.
he was a Sinestro Lantern.
Sinestro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a yellow ring,
Gotcha.
which he has. I think he has like multiple, and he punches Superman with his like yellow ring fist through the Statue of Liberty. Really good stuff.
Sounds right.
But another trailer that had come out while we're on the topic of Marvel adaptations is the Daredevil trailer, which is the first Netflix exclusive Marvel series coming out in April. You guys get a look at that?
Yeah. As far as trailers go, I wasn't. I didn't get super excited just on the trailer. Like I'm excited for the series, and it looks like it's gonna be good. I think the filmmaker in me didn't felt a little let down from the trailer because it felt like it was trying to be very grandiose with like this like really intense voiceover that was going on coming from
Very kind of
McClintock,
film-
where the hell the guy.
McClintock. That's like a fucking
McClintock.
episode 1 reference.
That's
Yeah.
a deep cut.
Yeah.
It's also a John Wayne film
Yeah.
where he spanks his wife with a shovel at the end of the film.
Nice. But yeah, Matt Murdock, the secret identity of Daredevil, has this big monologue that he's saying to a priest during confession, and
Which reminded me of the Affleck film, because that's how that movie starts too.
Yeah. To me, like it makes sense. To me, having the Frank Miller Born Again being really the only Daredevil that I've read. Like I was like, oh, okay, cool. He's super Catholic. Got it. But like I don't know. It just it felt weird or weirdly executed to me. Other than that, though, it looks really cool. Like I'm definitely more excited for it than Fantastic Four if we're going just on those two.
I was never apprehensive about Charlie Cox being Daredevil,
Mm-hmm.
but this definitely was again. So I was never like, oh, I'm scared. But I saw it and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. He's Matt Murdock, sweet.
Yeah. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Well done. He's kissing the ground and blood's coming out of his mouth.
That
okay.
I gotta say that shot was beautiful from a cinematographer standpoint. Just because like it's very undersaturated, and then you see the blood drip out of his mouth, and I was like, oh.
It looks like it really, because you mentioned Frank Miller, it does look like it takes more off of Frank Miller's run than say Bendis or Brubaker or certainly Mark Waid's Happy Daredevil.
Yeah. And lest we forget that Ninja Daredevil is canon.
Yeah, from Man Without Fear by Frank Miller. I feel like the big reason that Miller made Matt Murdock Catholic, he was like a guy that's a criminal prosecutor by day and a superhero by night. That level of commitment kind of like screams Catholic guilt to me.
Yeah.
So that's why he made him Catholic during his run.
That and also Frank Miller was raised super Catholic.
Yeah.
So so it was like shooting fish in a barrel for him.
Yeah, it was an easy connection to make.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the thing that draws me to Daredevil is that like mindset,
The Catholicism.
Yeah, that. I mean, and I'm not Catholic, but like that mindset and that commitment. I'm a huge fan of Man Without Fear. I absolutely love that as an origin story. So I'm very excited to see what seems to be like either the pilot episode or a good chunk of the first season to be Man Without Fear.
I feel like he isn't going to go Daredevil Red until the end of the back half or back third of the series.
Or what if that was like the last shot of for the first episode? It's like I hope
Smallville style.
Yeah, but I mean, like with the idea where it's like the last page of Man Without Fear is like I hope I don't know what the exact line is. I hope I look good. I hope I don't look silly.
Well, and I also feel like so it's on the one hand you're going to see the rise of Matt Murdock as Daredevil. The parallel story, the rise of Wilson Fisk as the Kingpin, and that's where I feel like it's going.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, kind of the parallels.
I mean, they were the big two Fisk was more or less his big nemesis.
Oh, definitely,
and it's
especially
nice,
during the Miller run.
Yeah, and it's nice that they can use the property, even though he's kind of shared between Spider-Man.
Yeah, just like how both Marvel both Disney and Fox have access to Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch because they're both mutants and the children of Magneto, at least not anymore. In the comics, they changed it, but historically...
Marvel was like, haha, got the upper hand on you guys.
Historically, they were the children of Magneto, and they were mutants, so that's why they were able to show up in like Days of the Future Past, and they'll probably show up in X-Men Apocalypse as well. Mm-hmm. I know Evan Peters is contracted
but they were
for that.
but they were also part of the Avengers.
They were more associated, with the Avengers, especially for their work in the 70s. So that's how,
and especially for me, like I know Scarlet Witch is part of the Avengers because of like House of M, and she and like Vision, if I remember correctly, had like a thing going.
They had kids, which is weird because the Vision's a robot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was all, and that's apparently from Whedon said his favorite era of Avengers was like 70s Avengers, where it's Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch and Vision is part of the team and that sort of thing. So I think, and of course, I feel like he's not coming back to Marvel at least for a long time after he's done with Age of Ultron, because in his own words, he wants to go create his own IP, which is fine because he hasn't done that since he did pre-production on the first Avengers film. And that's something that he used to do. He's like, that could just be another like TV series. That could just be like a one-off movie. Who knows? But I haven't done that for like 5 years. Now I'm really aching to do that again. Yeah. It sounds like, and he's like, I've had great fun at Marvel. I'd love to work with him again, but I just want to do something for myself. And it's
Cabin in the Woods too.
Yeah, maybe he'll actually direct it too.
Yeah.
I feel like Daredevil's is going to be good though.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Oddly enough, like I'm super not super, but I'm excited for Daredevil. I'm not so much with the other Netflix original series, but that's mostly because I don't know anything. Like Iron Fist, I know him from the recent Spider-Man cartoon.
Oh yeah, because he's one of him and Luke Cage.
Yeah, and Luke Cage, I know him from the cartoon. I don't know Jessica Jones.
Jessica Jones was
I don't know her at all.
She was created specifically as kind of this retroactive character that had always been there by Brian Bendis. Like she was a character that when he was like, oh yeah, she used to be a high school classmate of Peter Parker's, and she secretly had a crush on him. And then she went off and became a superhero of her own right, and then had a run-in with David Tennant because he's cast as the villain in the Jessica Jones miniseries or series on Netflix, and that's what led her to give up the cape and cowl. At least that's what it did in the book. So we'll see if that carries over to the TV show, and started her own basically private investigation office for superhero or superpowered related crime, which is kind of cool. We'll see
interesting concept.
We'll see if Kristen Ritter, great actress, loved her work in Breaking Bad,
Gilmore Girls.
Don't trust the bee in apartment 27.
Yeah,
23.
Yes.
No. Don't trust the bee in apartment 27. Rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, it rhymes.
Yeah.
But to get back to your point about the sharedness of Kingpin, because Kingpin was originally a Spider-Man villain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and so Sony obviously still has the rights to Spider-Man. Who knows? Maybe someday it'll come back to Disney, but
maybe
because Disney has the merchandising rights. But so that means
there's all the rumors about him being thrown in with Civil War
or Infinity War, which would be great.
Yeah, it would totally be great.
But So there could very well be a Spider-Man film with Kingpin as well, but I feel like there would never be.
No.
Like, why do it?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I'm so glad that they're allowed to have Kingpin in the Daredevil stuff, because he is like synonymous with Daredevil. You know, like you said, a lot of people don't even realize that he's a Spider-Man villain. You know,
him and Bullseye. Yeah.
Yeah, because Frank Miller was the one, again, didn't create Daredevil, but sure as hell reinvented the shit out of him. Same with Kingpin. You know?
As much as I love Stan Lee for creating all these characters, Daredevil, like Stan Lee's Daredevil, basically read like Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even to the point where...
He basically is blind Spider-Man.
Yeah, just swinging through New York with his billy club instead of webs. So...
How does he do it?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, does he have like a python like Batman? Anyway. But, yeah. So
his sonar can only be so good. Right?
Yeah, I'm curious to see. I mean, we kind of get glimpses of that in the trailer, but I really hope they kind of get into the actual... Like, one thing that I do love about Affleck's Daredevil film is I did like the
Daredevil vision.
Daredevil vision was fine.
Yeah,
I liked it in that film. Like when he's in the subway and to like reduce the noise, he has to hit the metal bar to kind of create the sound waves and locate the dude with the gun. Now another trailer that had come out that has nothing to do with the Marvel universe is the Poltergeist remake.
Yeah, I remember. We had talked about talking about the superhero movies, trailers coming out. And to give myself a refresher, I watched those on YouTube earlier today, and then just like a little blurb about the new Poltergeist movie popped up, and I was like, "Oh yeah, a whole bunch of people were talking about this, the other day when the trailer got released. Let me check it out." And I watched it, and one of the first thing that that pops up is that Sam Raimi's producing it, and I got really excited because Sam Raimi's one of my favorite directors. Like, for better or for worse with the Spider-Man movies, but like
more so his horror stuff.
Yeah, like I love his horror stuff. And when I saw his name was attached to it, at first I thought he was directing it, but then we cleared that up and found out that he's just producing it. But he also just produced The Grudge, and I thought The Grudge was really well executed.
The first one, yeah.
Yeah. But like, oh man, watching that trailer, like, do yourselves a favor and watch that trailer, because it looks like straight up awesome horror going on. And like, I've kind of been waning myself off horror recently because like it's not
there hasn't been that much.
That
at least
too.
I feel like it.
Yeah, I feel like there hasn't been that much, or at least that much like quality, horror. And also like I just haven't been as interested in getting, scaring my pants off. But like I got about halfway through that trailer and I was like, I am fucking seeing this. Ass in the seats, maybe even opening day. Like I am excited. And then it did, the entire trailer did not disappoint, and it looked the last bit of it is just the camera following this pull string off of this creepy clown toy, and like the way that like they were using the light and stuff like that, it kind of reminded me of what was that Guillermo del Toro movie with the, like, not The Borrowers, because that was like
Devil's
a family
Backbone,
movie.
The Orphanage.
I think it was one that he just produced, like not one that he directed.
The Orphanage. He didn't direct The
Orphanage.
Orphanage.
It was about this like haunted house.
Crimson Peak.
No, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, or something like that.
Oh yeah, with Katie Holmes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like it like the way that they were using the camera reminded me of like a lot of the good stuff, and that was a really good horror movie. That like the trailer looked really cool, but I was like, meh, probably not going to see it. And then I finally did, and I was like, oh, totally worth it. It was so watch that too. Fear of the Dark or something like that.
Don't Be Afraid of the Dark.
Don't Be Afraid of the Dark?
Something like that.
I feel like that's such an 80s horror movie
title. It was originally a 70s television film starring Kim Darby from the original True Grit.
Well, there you
go. The Poltergeist, the original Poltergeist, directed by Tobe Hooper and executive produced and written by Steven Spielberg. It really was one of the first horror movies I ever saw. Just because I guess it was 80s, so it came out right around then, and my dad happened to have like the tape or whatever for it. And yeah, it really had a kind of a formed an impact on at least my horror viewing. I don't know about cinema as a whole, but that's certainly one of the ones that always kind of comes up. the dude with his face rotting,
Oh yeah.
pulling apart.
Oh
Peeling
god.
his face off. Yeah.
That was for me as like a little 6-year-old boy, one of those things where it's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Watching that to happen, of course, the clown doll and that,
Mm.
and the shot of like all the coffins shooting
Yeah.
out of the ground,
Mhm.
like in the
And the
empty
fact that
swimming
they were
pool.
using real skeletons.
Yeah, man.
That was one. There
Never
was
saw the sequels.
no, me neither.
Not missing anything.
I saw at least one of them, and the one that takes place in like the apartment building or whatever, and it had some cool like bits to it, but
There was a period where Sam, me, Sam, and our buddy TJ saw a bunch of movies in the re-released in the theaters, and one of them, I don't think it might have just been me and TJ, but we saw.
I wasn't there for the re-release of The Exorcist.
Yeah,
that was so good.
we saw E.T. and The Exorcist on the same day.
Yeah.
We saw The Exorcist first, and then I cried like a son of a gun during E.T. So there's that. But
like a crazy person,
like a
just
crazy,
wept like a
just
crazy.
a crazy man. Well, actually, luckily it wasn't in the theater. I had already done that, rewatching
in the
it.
movie theater bathroom.
Yeah, just
Just
1 minute, 1 minute. So you're in the women's bathroom, just 1 minute.
He just wanted to phone
Yeah,
home.
we're close, sir. But I saw Poltergeist in the theater, and that was cool. I mean, that was one I had seen fairly early on in my life, and certain things that stuck with me forever. Still to this day, I like to fall asleep like watching TV or something, and there are moments sometimes when I just freak myself up and I wake up in the middle of the night with the TV on. It makes me think of Poltergeist. But
Do you put your hand on the screen?
no. I don't know. Maybe. Yes, that I come to and I'm awake with my hands on the screen. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Sam standing in the room, going, "They're here,"
just staring at you.
yeah.
You go back to check the security footage, and he's just been there wiggling for like 3 hours.
That's fairly.
Yeah.
normal.
Now we're going into
Paranormal
paranormal activity.
activity.
Yeah.
But one of the things I love about Poltergeist.
First one's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
I mean, the for being like a found footage kind of
Yeah.
thing, like some of the cinematography that they pull off is actually pretty cool.
Hey, Paranormal Activity or Blair Witch Project?
Paranormal Activity.
Probably Paranormal.
Agree with
I
you
feel
guys.
like especially as like far as sequels go, like I feel like Paranormal Activity has more or less stayed pretty like consistent, whereas like Blair Witch 2, Season of the Witch or whatever it was called.
Completely different.
Yeah.
The Book of Shadows. I
Book
think.
of Shadows.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't
yeah.
Season of the Witch,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like I felt like that was a good allegory.
It fits. Yeah, it's a complete departure.
Except I would probably rather watch Season of the Witch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'd go that far. We've argued the merits or demerits,
Demerits?
of Season of the Witch before.
Yeah.
But one of the things I always loved about the first Poltergeist was that the mom is like the hero. Like she totally saves the day. I mean, you get Craig T. Nelson, which is cool, but he's kind of like gone. There's.
Well, I think the big has a lot of for me, a lot of effective horror movies. There is this kind of like real world subtext, not just horror movies, like just horror in general. And I don't know because we talk a lot. I feel like we talk a lot about horror, but fuck it, we'll just stick with what we know.
Yeah. We can geek out about it.
Yeah, in fact, so like Frankenstein for me is a story that's a man consumed by his own pride and his unwillingness to accept death, which also shows up in Lovecraft's Reanimator.
Back on Netflix, and I love that movie.
Yeah.
So good.
So good. The what's it? The Sinister with Ethan Hawke,
Oh yeah.
directed by Scott Derrickson, who will soon be directing Doctor Strange, is a film about a man who's
Left-handed?
is he? I don't know.
I don't.
I'm left-handed.
Yeah,
You're sinister.
I haven't studied the Italian word or Latin, and then the Italian word sinestro.
Core.
Yes, it's a Sinister with Ethan Hawke's a film really about this guy that is fixated or obsessed, and that obsession, like it diverts him from caring about his family, and ultimately, like who's the person that is going to kick back the most about that? Your kids, and spoilers, but his kid like straight up kills everybody in that fucking movie, including him.
Now I kind of want to see it.
Have you not seen it before?
No, I haven't.
It's
That's
really
the one where
good.
he finds like old 8mm film in his attic or something like that.
Kind of like the Ring.
Yeah. It's like
Kinda.
a Lobo-like creature
Yeah. But
stalking him.
A Captain Howdy.
yeah, sure. The I always felt with Poltergeist, it's about a family falling apart, and yeah, it's the mom that really rallies. That's for me the kind of real world allegory that Poltergeist kind of stands for.
Yeah.
'Cause yeah, Craig T. Nelson getting in with that, working for that real sleaze bag and stuff like that, and that taking a toll, and the kind of the neglect of the kids.
Yeah.
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 But yeah, so if you've never seen Poltergeist, kind of watch that. Watch that.
Treat yourself.
Watch that with that subtext. Yeah. Yeah.
Top it off with Volume 1 of Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four.
And then watch the Mad Max Fury Road trailer.
Yeah.
Because
Because
the second one.
As far as trailers go, still probably the most exciting one. Like I'm a huge this just popped in my head. Star Wars coming out this year. The trailer's out. It was super cool, and I got a huge nerd boner from it.
Sure.
But Fury Road still looks super exciting.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies coming out this year that I'm really actually stoked for. That being said, I haven't been in the theaters for 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But
Kingsman this weekend.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
I probably maybe not this weekend because of all the Valentine's crowds, but maybe Wednesday or something.
Valentine Screams, Kingsman, Secret Service.
Well,
it's either that or 50 Shades of Grey. So
yeah, but
which one are you going to?
Yeah, and all those couples are going to be in the theater regardless.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you kind of have to it's like I can't.
Well, yeah, have fun when you're just seeing limbs flying everywhere with a Mark Miller story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But which I feel like is going to be. Would you say it's going to be more violent than Wanted? Now you've actually read the book. How does it stack up? Or just the book. Obviously, you can't compare it to the film.
How does it compare to the final film?
Well, I haven't finished the book yet, but I so hope. I mean, because I know that it's very loosely based. They said, but seeing the trailer now, watching the trailer after getting more than halfway through the book, there's a lot of elements there. Obviously, a lot of very similar elements. The whole idea of people killing themselves is something that they use really early on in the book. I think what's his face, Colin Firth, is right off the page from the character Uncle Jack in the book. But the one thing, I don't care if after this scene the movie is only the same in name, they need to have the opening of the comic be the exact same in the movie when they go to rescue Mark Hamill. Please, that has to be the exact same because it is absolutely hysterical. I really hope, and I've heard that the rumor is Mark Hamill is in the movie. So
Mark Hamill has been pushing the shit. I don't know if you guys follow him on Twitter, but I do, and pretty much every tweet for the past month has mentioned Kingsman.
It's hey, you maybe want to watch this movie.
if they do what they do in the beginning of the book in the movie, it's going to be fantastic. I can't wait. I really hope that they do that because it's hysterical.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, because that's honest to God, that's the only movie that's kind of piqued my interest for. I do still need to see Selma because that's the only Best Picture nominee I haven't seen. And being a bit of a completionist, it's I'm just gonna. It's a tough sell though. It's a tough sell. Kind of I waited.
It's hard to want to watch something that's is going to be full of such depressing
content.
Yeah.
I waited until the last minute to see 12 Years a Slave.
Mm-hmm.
Because honestly, it wasn't coming from it was coming from a place of I guess, for lack of a better word, fear. It was I'm I don't want to necessarily go in and be bummed out, watch an entire race get shit on for 2.5 hours. Watching Fassbender play the most vile character in his entire cinematic career. But I did. I mean, I would have picked it for Best Picture. So, did it win?
It did win Best
Picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, why did I have to think about that? But yeah, it and I feel the same way about Selma, though knowing history like I do, they end up doing the march to Selma.
Mm-hmm.
But damn, is it a rough,
it is an uphill march.
It is not it's not a pleasant road. It's going to be, yeah, but I'll see it. I'll knock that one out. Yeah, but those are the only movies I have any interest in coming in theaters.
I can't remember anything until after we see Kingsman, there's nothing on the docket that I know of until Ultron.
Oh, Chappie. I really want to see Chappie.
Is that like a March release?
It's March, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Yeah.
I am Chappie.
At first I was like, like I like the director. You know, I forget his name, but he's the guy that did District.
Blomkamp.
Sure.
Neil Blomkamp.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the.
That was the first
District
show
9?
in a while.
Yeah, I know.
So.
District 9.
Yes.
For whatever reason, I always get worried that I'm saying the wrong one because that mockbuster came out called District 13. Right around the same time.
Yeah, it's not that.
And I never remember which one's which because the number is the only thing that's different.
Sure. Yeah. Did you ever end up seeing like Elysium?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. It was better than I thought it was going to be. Just because I was like, oh, okay, so it's just about this guy breaking into rich people's homes. Like that's kind of like how the trailer set it up. Like I get it. It was about, you know, class war and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was kind of like the way that. So if District 9's all about like apartheid, then because I never ever saw Elysium, so.
Yeah.
But what I got from it is it's about like class divide. It's about
privilege.
And it's about immigration, and it's about healthcare.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to. But like, yeah. So I was like, I wasn't expecting as much action as what it ended up being, and it all in all,
pleasant surprise in that regard.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a really nice mix between like just a dumb, like popcorn, whatever the pop term for that is. But yeah, like a nice combination between just a dumb action movie and like a heavy, social commentary.
Yeah, I feel like
which District 9 kind of was as well.
Yeah,
a little bit heavier on the social commentary.
Yeah, what I always found interesting about District 9, it's a film and it's an anti-apartheid film, like 15 years after apartheid ended.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, okay, well, you can still certainly comment on it, but you won.
Yeah, it's like Selma.
Yeah, 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah. Yeah,
we know now slavery is no longer a thing.
Yeah,
thank God. Yeah,
right. Oof. And then Chappie, like, it kind of looks like, you know, the same kind of setup.
Yeah,
like, you know,
I think to that regard, it's like, look, we're in regards to 12 Years a Slave and Selma. It's like, look, especially with Selma, because it's only like 30, 40, or at this point, 50 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's like, look how far we've come.
Yeah.
That's
and yet how far we still have to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And Chappie, and all of his movies kind of put like a sci-fi spin on it.
Oh yeah.
Where
makes it easier to digest, I think.
Yeah. But I
am Chappie.
I am consciousness. I am life.
But
I am Chappie.
An interesting thing about it, Chappie coming out, two actually, is first part of the supporting cast. I don't know how high they are in the cast, but the band Die Antwoord is in it, who are a big South African band, or like I guess a rap duo or whatever you want to call it. But I was talking to one of our regulars at my bar who is South African, and she's over here being an au pair for the next couple months. But I was talking to her about it because I was like, oh, hey, you're South African. What do you have to say about this? And she was like, it's so weird that Die Antwoord, like she kind of got, distracted by Die Antwoord. She was like, it's so weird that they are so popular here in the States because they are a terrible band back in like South Africa.
I wonder how she feels about Congos.
Yeah,
because they're South African.
I had no. Now that I know, I'll ask her what she thinks, because I am genuinely interested about how worldly things are.
Ask her what she thinks of Lethal Weapon 2.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know if like they're like universally disliked in South Africa. That might just be her opinion, but like they weren't a huge band, and then like out of nowhere they just get popular in America. And she was like, I don't get it. I don't get it. They're weird. They creep me out. They are like, she was going on about how like they, are, in terms of like South African culture, they're very like on the low class scale, and they like weirdly like celebrate it. And like I made a joke about like how like thug life is celebrated in like American rap culture. Like it's kind of a similar thing. And
My dad listens to rap.
Yeah, I saw that video you posted online. It was very nice. I liked it.
Thanks.
And then like another thing that she said while we were talking about Chappie, she was like, "It's also so weird that the name of the movie is Chappie, because that's." I forget whether she said it was a slang or a brand, but for chewing gum in South African, or in South Africa, I guess in Afrikaans.
I know. Yeah, God. Next time I talk to her, and I've never actually talked to her before, I need to practice my Afrikaans.
There you go.
I never get that
Oh yeah,
opportunity.
I'll point her out to you next time you're both at the bar, or well, I guess all three of us are at the bar.
Loke und Mutter.
Sure. she hangs out with the two German au pairs that also come to our bar, and I occasionally practice my German at them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gern geschehen. I wonder how they feel about Tokyo Hotel. If they feel the same way about Tokyo Hotel as the South African chick feels about Die Antwoord.
Yeah. I know that one of the German chicks really loves Rammstein, and I'm like, oh, cool. 10 years ago.
Yeah. Matrix soundtrack. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they're still popular over in Germany, but like, yeah, they haven't really done anything here in the last decade.
They showed up in Triple X.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the very beginning.
And then like, freshman year of high school, everyone knew all the words to Du hast.
Du
like
hast,
that, and that was the only German that they knew.
Yeah. Oh, man. But yeah. Well, that's cool. Yeah, because
I'm sorry. Hey, Jake, what do you think about Chappie? And
I just want to see it. Every time I bring up Chappie to somebody, they always talk about that band. And I'm just like, okay, well, they're in it. Yeah, sure. But, there's a movie there.
There's a movie with a robot.
He pretends to mimic He-Man.
I don't know if you know this, but Die Antwoord is in the
I
movie?
did.
Yeah.
Everyone, they bring it every time I talk about it. Someone brings it up.
Yeah.
That's cool. Like, I mean, I don't know anything about him, but that's cool.
My little sister really likes him, and that's how I found out about him. Like,
I just hope that doesn't hinder the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like that doesn't become like the focal point.
Yeah.
Like it seems to have.
Like when Blink-182 shows up in American Pie.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
For 2 seconds.
Yep. Yeah, they show up and they watch Jim failing to have sex with Shannon Elizabeth.
Yeah. Or like when Sugar Ray showed up in
Scooby-Doo.
Well, I was gonna go with Father's Day, but all right.
Yeah, they show up in the second Scooby-Doo film in the very beginning. Yeah. Here's the thing. Now that I mentioned Blink-182, they kind of broke up.
Yeah, didn't they break up like 10 years ago?
They broke up in almost exactly 10 years to the day. They broke up in 2005, right before they did a benefit concert for the tsunami victims. Remember the massive tsunami in December of 2004?
Well timed.
Yeah. So they were.
Did they do the benefit?
They didn't.
Oof.
They broke up during rehearsals for the benefit, and the story. I mean, from what I understand, it was mainly the guitarist of Blink-182, Tom DeLonge, who's also the founder and frontman of Angels and Airwaves and Boxcar Racer. He wanted to spend, because they had been on tour for their 2003 self-titled album, basically for 2 straight years, and he's like, I just had a kid. I want to spend some time with my kid. I don't want to do anything for like 6 months. And then they were like, well, can we do this like benefit concert? And basically they had a big argument in rehearsals, and no, they didn't. They pulled out at the last second. They couldn't just, keep it together for a benefit show, which is kind of shitty. But
I mean, they are human,
They are. I mean, I've been in
I get it.
Yeah.
But
you get scenarios where you just can't, where it just doesn't work anymore. Like a relationship, if you've ever been in a relationship and you're just like, I can't.
When you break up like right before Valentine's Day or on someone's birthday.
Oof. Yeah. Before the holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens.
It does, and it sucks. It sucks when it does. And that's kind of what happened there. And so he went off, the guitarist, Tom DeLonge went off and created Angels and Airwaves, kind of this like prog rock kind of thing. Whereas the other two members of Blink-182, Mark Hoppus and Travis Barker, went and founded their own kind of, very much in the vein of Blink-182, but it had kind of more of an indie rock flair called Plus 44. And then in 2008, the drummer for Blink-182, Barker, was in a plane crash, and him and DJ AM from Iron Man 2 He has a cameo as the DJ at Tony Stark's birthday party.
He drops the beat so Tony can kick his friend's ass.
Yeah, they were the only survivors of that plane crash, and that was the event that prompted them to reform. Like DeLonge was put all that. It was like I had to put all that petty bullshit aside and
Put all the small things aside.
Yeah.
Oh.
truth brings. I'll take one lift. Your ride, best trip.
He was like,
That's
no
my
one,
one Blink-182 reference.
He was like, no one likes you when you're 23, but we're older than that.
Yeah. What's his age again? They're
I think he's like 30. Oh,
yeah. He turns 40 this year. So they reformed and they announced it. We're at the time we're recording this. The Grammys are going on right now. They announced it at the 2009 Grammys, and so they reformed. They had a reunion tour. They recorded an album. According to the other two members of the band, DeLonge didn't even listen to didn't approve the final mixes. Like he just didn't. Like they were just kind of going through the motions when they were recording it, and they recorded it. He refused to join them in their Los Angeles studio. He recorded it at his home studio in San Diego. Los Angeles isn't that far from San Diego. Like you would think, like it's 2 hours, maybe 3 if traffic on the 405 is really shitty. But yeah, so they.
It's like us going to Baltimore.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good estimate. They're a good comparison. Or Richmond, and a little farther than Richmond, if we wanted to go south.
Virginia Beach,
yeah, that sounds about it. Yeah, in that area. So they recorded that album separately. He didn't apparently, at this point, the band has their own lawyers, their own managers. Like everyone kind of divided off after the breakup and came back, and they had this entire bureaucracy. Each had their own. And then. And I think the big reason I'm talking so much about Blink-182 is I've mentioned back in episode 15, Music Appreciation Week. They really were my favorite band in high school and all that. They were just, I would always hear their music. I would always hear Blink, and they were just such a dominant part. Like Enema of the State and Take Off Your Pants and Jacket were such a influence on me during my middle school and high school years. It was always interesting because when I started middle school, they were really breaking into the mainstream, and when I ended high school, they were breaking up. And so they went on. They did a tour to support that album, and apparently they were supposed to go into the studio last month to record a follow-up album, and he was just like, no. The guitarist, through his manager, was basically like, I want to do anything musically for the foreseeable future. I just want to focus on doing art projects, because he's since did an independent film with an Angels and Airwaves soundtrack called Love. He did an animated film called Poet Anderson. Yeah, he's been branching out there. And apparently it was at the 11th hour, and they were just like, fuck it. He's out. And that's when, I remember seeing Tom DeLonge trending on Twitter a couple weeks ago. I was like, oh, what happened? Because whenever you see something trending on Twitter,
the immediate thing is something bad happened.
Yeah, they're they're dead. That's the first place my mind goes.
Yeah.
And thankfully he's not dead.
Yeah.
But he's apparently quit the band, and they're
dead to the other members.
Yeah, and they went on they bashed the shit out of him in a Rolling Stone interview that came out that day. And they're like, what if he kind of has a change of heart and comes back? And they're like, this is the second time he's pulled this shit.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're doing their tour commitments with the guitarist from Alkaline Trio.
I'm assuming he's taking over vocal duties, or is what's his name going to be singing everything?
He can, right? Because they have the dueling harmonies for quite a few songs.
I don't know.
I would
anything about that. Sorry,
Come on, Jake.
I did all the small things reference because I know that song, and then I really like that one song from Angels and Airwaves a lot. I'd probably actually, if I actually sat down and listened to Angels and Airwaves, if the rest of the album sounds like that, I'd probably actually really like that album.
I would recommend, as far as Angels and Airwaves go, their second album and their...
I think it's The Adventure. Is that the name of the song?
The Adventure is their lead single, yeah.
That's a really good song.
Yeah, We Don't Need to Whisper. That was that album. That was an alright one. I really like their second album, I Empire, and their third and fourth albums, which is Love Parts 1 and 2. I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah. I seem to like the songs that you don't like so much by them. Maybe tell me what's your least favorite Blink song and
least favorite Blink-182 song.
Yeah.
Shit.
Because this is one of the few things where I feel like we're on the opposites on.
Yeah,
yeah. I love your enthusiasm for Blink-182. Me personally, I never got into them. But
was it because they weren't very technically proficient?
No, because
no, Travis Barker is an amazing drummer.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly the earlier stuff with Scott Rayner, who's kind of I'm not a drummer, but it was a lot sloppier.
Yeah. I mean, because I liked, I liked it. It wasn't. I don't know what it was really. Maybe I found it's. I would say the voice kind of annoying, but then again, I liked some of the Angels and Airways stuff. I don't know. I didn't like that. I've never liked pop punk stuff.
Sure.
Like Green Day, I've never really liked.
Yeah.
I've liked a couple songs here and there.
All
but
American Rejects.
I think when they were breaking in really big time, I was getting really into progressive stuff like Dream Theater.
Sure.
And this is not a bash against any kind of music ability that Blink-182 has. I was really into like the exact opposite, which is like 30-minute songs that was just like I wanted something that was just crazy and experimental and out there. And so I to be fair, I never really gave Blink a chance, but I mean when they were breaking big, I mean everyone was all about it, and I was really into like weird. I was getting into really like dark metal, like I was just getting
like just heavy.
Just like, well, I remember like the joke was like the gateway thing was like, everyone loves Metallica, right? And then I kind of saw with my friends, like we kind of just separated after that, because like they would go off and they would like some more of like, they got really into like jam bands. I don't know how you get the jam bands from Metallica.
Sure.
But then I started, was like, all right, cool, Megadeth, and then Slayer, and then Testament, and then Death, and then Cannibal Corpse and Venom, and then it was just getting like darker, and I just wanted to get like faster and crazier, and then like Merciful Fate. And
see, that was like I mentioned this like in episode 15. That's the divergent point, because during all that heavy shit when Korn was big and Limp Bizkit was big and Godsmack and Deftones and all them and Rage Against the Machine were all big, and I appreciate all those bands. I like all those bands, but I wanted something lighter, something more melodic, because that's what I grew up on. Like stuff like the Beatles and like the Beach Boys, who got vocal harmonies down like a science, and Blink has their vocal harmonies down, and it was a breath of fresh air to everything I was listening, everything else that was big in middle school. Yeah. And that was the appeal for Blink-182. And I mean, you look at pictures of me in fucking middle school and high school, my fashion sense is basically
Blink-182.
You look at Blink-182 like album art and like promo
just
photos.
See, like a slideshow of you set to all the small things,
So oddly enough, for a really weird like couple weeks, you were running around naked just with shoes on because of.
Well, I was doing that before.
You were like, oh, well, this is why I like this band.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like
getting enemas from porn stars.
Again, I was doing that before.
Yeah, I mean, because we did talk about this a bit before on the podcast, but who cares? I feel like a comparison for me, getting like pulling myself out of like this like insane metal thing. Yeah. One of the bands I loved that was the equivalent of that for me was like Weezer.
Sure. Power. I love that. I love Weezer.
Like they were the band that like I would listen to, and it was just like
they've toured with Blink. Yeah.
And just like a lot of fun. And they were also a band too, because I know you were saying like a lot of Blink songs that people like love and dance to are like super not dance-worthy songs. Like,
yeah, I remember I was at a karaoke thing at Chris's bar, and I was seeing people like happy dance to Adam's song, which is all about teenage suicide, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, like kudos to like somebody singing Adam's song, great number, but it's okay, fine. Like, do what as Chris always says, you do you. But what the fuck?
Yeah. Well, that was like, with Weezer, too, it was like everyone with like the Undone song, the sweater song. Everyone's like, oh, it's about a sweater, and it's funny and cute and hilarious. And it's like, no, that's his depression unraveling. And
his mind's unraveling under the crippling weight of his
Sadie
depression
and
and
So is about like alcoholism, the sins of the father become the sins of the son, all this. And then, but that was in a weird way. And then like Surf Wax America is like basically about someone drowning. And then, but you have, it's wrapped up with this like this wonderful melody and pop stuff.
Yeah.
And, and then again, I remember hearing Buddy Holly for the first time. That just like blew my mind.
It's a great song.
Just how like crunchy it was, and
it might
melodic.
be my favorite song on the Blue album.
It's good stuff.
It's up there. But so it's kind of a bit of a bummer to see Blink-182 re-break up, or at least lose their original guitarist.
How did their albums stack up second time around? Like,
their one album,
I guess. Yeah.
It's interesting because you can tell what albums. They're a band like the Beatles where if you wrote it, you sang it.
Okay.
And you could tell what albums were created more in a vacuum. And apparently they had a last-minute session where they all kind of convene. And those are like almost like oh shit, deadline's coming up. We need to just stow this bullshit aside and come together and just like record these songs. Those are the best songs on the album, where they're actually like all like clearly all jamming.
Does Barker ever sing?
No. Apparently he can.
Yeah.
Apparently
he was like he's like the glory, like the genius.
Here's the thing. You can find like YouTube videos of him like during like recording sessions. They recorded their self-titled album, the last album before their initial breakup, in a house, in a residential house. They just rented it out and like had all the stuff in there, like the recording booth and everything in there. And during like fuck around,
taking a page out of the Foo Fighters book.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, the Foo Fighters now, honestly since college really, are probably my favorite contemporary band that's out and around right now. And I'll get to back to the Foo Fighters in a second, and I'll try to make it quick because I know you guys have been listening to us for almost an hour and a half. Yeah. You can see like in between sessions, Barker like jamming out to Metallica on a guitar.
Yeah,
it's like, oh shit, he really is like the best instrumentalist, not just drums, but
he's the Paul McCartney of Blink-182
secretly, and he's also the quietest member. And I'm willing to. I
used to watch his show with his wife. That was on
Meet the Barkers.
Yeah, I used to watch that show.
I caught it a couple episodes.
Yeah, I don't know.
What an acrimonious split there. God, yeah.
I liked watching Barker's YouTube videos. I guess during the break of Blink-182, he would just upload drum covers like every couple of weeks.
Him doing like Soldier Boy and stuff. Yeah,
he made a lot of songs that I didn't really care for very listenable because he would improve upon the drum line.
Well, he would always have the craziest drum solos too. I remember for the what was it? The Take Off Your Pants and Jacket tour. They would have him on this platform that would go out, and there would be flames going around, and he would spin around on stage while doing a drum solo.
Sorry.
Well, during the Pop Disaster tour with Green Day.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, I went and saw that.
Yeah.
They had him much like Tommy Lee from Motley Crue. He was on like a hydraulic lift that would spin upside down.
Oh yeah.
And at one point actually would like it also like moved forward
over the
audience.
Yeah,
it's like Joey Jordison from Slayer. You'd have to strap himself in.
Yeah.
Which at the Verizon Center where I saw it, they actually had that area roped off so that no one was allowed
directly
to be.
Under him.
No one was directly underneath him.
Yeah, I remember because he would spin around forward and he would do a drum solo, and when they spin him around backwards, he would do the same fills backwards.
Yeah,
and it was awesome. And then during the self-titled tour with No Doubt, they had him just like randomly pop up in the middle of the audience, like they had this like booth. And I remember I was sitting right next to the booth at the Nissan Pavilion, which is now the Jiffy Lube Live. They ran out this dude like in a wheelchair with a towel over their head, and was like, "Oh, dude, somebody got fucked up in the pit." And then it was Travis Barker. They rose him out. I guess that was their secret way to bust him in and out. And then he like does this like monster solo, and then he goes back, and then they
just back to hell.
Yeah, but yeah, he always had the coolest solos.
Yeah,
but yeah, so it's kind of a shame to see him, but it's not a big surprise because they hadn't really done anything since they put out an EP, like a holiday EP, a couple of years ago, but they hadn't done anything except for the occasional like festival date or whatever. So it's not the biggest surprise, and you know they'd always talked about doing an album, but they'd always put it off. While DeLonge was still very much doing stuff with Angels and Airwaves, so it's like, well, clearly his priority is his own kind of band. So, which is a shame, but again, if you had been following the band, then it didn't come as the biggest shock. To touch on the Foo Fighters really briefly, so I've been living with Sonic Highways for about 3 months now, and I kind of stand by what I was saying earlier about how it isn't necessarily the best Foo Fighters album. It's not the worst.
And it's not the traveling album that it was kind of advertised to be.
At the same time, I don't know of how much they were trying to make it. Like I don't know if like it's like the Foos like try out bluegrass, but I think they were trying to certainly go for those like if the Foo Fighters like had an album where like each track was like a different like this is our dance this is our dance track, this is our bluegrass track, this is our country track. It would sound like a fucking hodgepodge. Yeah. But so I don't think that was the intent, but certainly there's about half of that album like fucking rips. Like it's great. Now that I've kind of like sat down and listened to this album on and off for 3 months, it's like the DC track, the Los Angeles track's my favorite. One, because it's got Joe Walsh doing a guitar solo, but it just has like this dryness to the guitars that I'd never really heard them do before in any of their albums, like any of their other 7 albums. So that one, the Chicago track is still great. It's stuff like the New Orleans track doesn't really do it for me, and neither does the Austin track.
Yeah. I still haven't picked up the album, And I think I still have like 4 episodes of the
series?
documentary show.
Oh, so you haven't got to Los Angeles
No,
yet?
I think I might have gotten. I think the Los Angeles track was the last one I saw.
Were they recording like in the middle of the desert?
Okay, no, I haven't seen that
Oh
one.
man,
No. Oh no, Austin. Austin was the last one I saw.
which is, I mean, it's cool with the history, like with
Yeah,
Austin City Limits, where like Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah, it was a really cool educational show.
Yeah,
It was a really cool history show.
but the Austin track doesn't really connect for me.
Yeah.
And neither does the New Orleans. New York's pretty cool. I like the New York track, and again, yeah. So, yeah, it's really good. I'm looking forward to seeing those guys in a couple months.
Oh man, I wish. That's an expensive ticket.
It is
And as much as I love Foo Fighters, it's kind of hard to
justify.
to justify that much money.
But hey,
Because it's like $75 for the cheap seats, right?
well, it's general admission.
Well, so yes.
And yeah.
And the expensive seats.
Yeah. So, but Hart and Joan Jett and the Blackhearts.
Oh, they're gonna be there too.
Yeah.
I hadn't even looked at what else was.
And
gonna be
LL
going.
Cool J.
Well,
Can
okay.
compliment him on his work for Deep Blue Sea.
I could.
I loved it when you killed the shark stuck in your oven.
I loved.
Not a euphemism.
Although, also a euphemism. I love that you survived.
Yeah. He wasn't originally supposed to.
Making countless jokes about how the black man dies first in these kind of movies, and then you survived.
Yeah. To be fair, Samuel L. Jackson does die pretty
Yeah.
early. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, check that album out if you guys haven't, and listen to give the Blink discography a listen with like candles burning to like mourn their pseudo demise. All right. Well, I think
Jake,
that
any music you want to talk about real quick?
No, not
Okay,
really.
cool.
I don't think I've listened to anything out of the ordinary. I listened to. I woke up listening to Kanye West. I was just like, I had to listen to On Site this morning to get myself jazzed for the day.
yeah. I wonder I'm trying to remember what rap song my dad listened to yesterday because we went to a Washington Wizards game. I haven't been to a pro basketball game in about 14 years.
Yeah,
So
I'm almost 20 years since my last.
yeah.
Mine's
Pro
since birth.
basketball
I've never been to a pro basketball game. It's a
I-
bunch of college games. But
I
Yeah.
got to see the Bullets before they switched over to the Wizards.
Yeah, here's a fun fact. Since we're in the middle of Black History Month, the first black NBA player played for the Washington Capitals because we were the Washington Capitals before it became the Baltimore Bullets, before it became the Washington Bullets, before it became the Washington Wizards. But yeah, first black NBA player played for Washington.
Boom.
Take that, racists.
And now the Washington Capitals are a hockey team.
Yeah.
Predominantly white.
Yes. I think there's only like a handful of like black hockey
Yeah,
players.
it's a sport that hasn't gotten too much diversity.
Yeah.
You got different countries, but it's all white bread.
A lot of Northern Europeans.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right. But yeah, so go check out some trailers, guys. Read some Jonathan Hickman.
anything. Yeah.
Anything. But
Some Jeff Johns, anything?
Jeff Johns, anything. Spawn.
Yeah.
Now
Spawn.
that it's all in
Spawn,
comicsology.
anything?
Spawn. Anything. Yeah.
Spawn. Yeah. Watch the movie.
Yeah, just take it with a grain of salt.
And the animated series. Do that first.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
yeah. Do that. Watch that first, and then last.
Just
as well.
remember that the movie was made when CGI was brand new, and they were like, "Ooh, let's play around."
It
with
has
this."
some cool moments. Yes, it
Yeah.
has some cool
Yeah.
moments.
Michael
but-
J. White does a good job.
Yeah, John Leguizamo does a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah, he eats actual maggots on the pizza.
Yeah. Martin Sheen dies hard.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Spoiler.
Yeah.
Oh come on.
Yeah.
Spoiler: the bad guy dies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Anyway.
thank you very much.
Good night, Eric Bana.
Ciao.